Tony D and Little Joan here, and it's time to talk about the Marvel Studios Ms. Marvel TV show on Disney Plus. We're looking at the trailer. Let's get into it. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Please check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 8. Now available. Also, Joan, little rude dog, has to be in everything. Also available is the web comics at the Webcomic Factory and at Superfrat at superfrat.com. So check those out if you like comics. If you like comics, I can't imagine you're going to be watching this show, because this show isn't even the comic, in my view, because they had to change her powers because, look, there's certain things in comic books that work and certain things that don't. In Ms. Marvel, the comic book, she could make her fist really big and her arms long, and she kind of had those kinds of powers. In this, they changed it. They changed up her powers because, I don't know, it looked weird. See, there are things that look weird in the comics don't necessarily translate into live action, right? They don't translate into live action. This is more of a live action thing. Ooh, she shoots glitter out of her hands and things happen. No, in the comic, what would have happened is her arm would have stretched and it would have shut the door, as opposed to what she does there, where she sort of shoots a little magical bolt of energy. And here, I'm not sure how they would have done this in the comics, or if she also has that power too, but so this is essentially girl comic superhero being wedged into the comics, even worse than Captain Marvel. The main character is Kamala Khan. Is that the name of the character or the woman now? I keep getting them confused. There was a woman at Marvel named Kamala something who pushed this character into the Marvel comics because she wants to make them all girly, I guess, and was trying to change the direction so she could, I don't know, go to her bosses and say, see, look, I changed the directions and we made more money or something. Instead, it wasn't even about the money, I don't think. I think what it was about was the ESG score, which was coming down the pike when she took over, and she could go to her bosses and say, see how woke I made everything? Either that, or the bosses at Disney are even more crafty than I give them credit for. They saw ESG coming down the pike. They targeted Marvel Comics. They're like, well, we don't make enough money in the comic division for it to be worth a damn. So let's sacrifice that to pump up our ESG score. Who's the wokest individual we could find to head that up and promote this as if it's because she'll actually believe it? And then they find Kamala and stick her in the role. I think it's the height of vanity to put yourself in the comic. Now, I do it all the time. Full disclosure. But I'm the creator of the comics. That's a little different. You know, when you're writing stuff, it's already part of you. So putting my face on a lot of the characters, well, that's one thing. The thing about Kamala Khan, is that her name? Is that the executive's name or the character's name? I forget. The thing about the Marvel exec is that she doesn't write the comics, as far as I know. Now, she may have a hand in them saying, well, do this, do that. She obviously did to wedge this character in there. So, you know, but it's the height of vanity to name it after yourself. And essentially, this appears to be based after her childhood as a, I don't know if she's Pakistani. I assume she is. The main character's Pakistani. She's from Jersey City, and her attitude is, you know, brown girls from Jersey City don't get to be superheroes. You know, we're all so oppressed. That's not the way superheroes work at all, if you know anything about them. If you know anything about them, no, the world isn't full of racists who only gave the superpowers to white people. That's not the way it worked. The way it worked was guys who created the comics basically based them on themselves, just like I do. And most of them were white guys. and that became the appeal. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Hey, the guys who created Superman were Jewish, and Superman has black hair. A lot of people call him Jewish by default. But no one really cares about that in the comics. It's not about that. It's not about your religion or your ethnicity or whatever. Not usually. It's about being a hero. Now, is this character a hero? Maybe. I don't see the sacrifice. What I see is a character who is essentially a fangirl when it comes to the Avengers. She lives in the Marvel Universe, worships the Avengers, and gains superpowers. She worships Captain Marvel, and somehow gains superpowers. I mean, this is the kind of pitch that any fangirl could have made. And fangirls have made them. It's just that you got a fangirl, apparently, who was running Marvel Comics for a long time, who threw this out there. It's pandering. It's pandering to the fan base. A fan base, by the way, which is tiny. Very tiny. Fangirls, love you, but you're few and far between, and you know it. You know it. Don't stand there and pretend like, oh, there's thousands and thousands of us. There's not. You are in the deep, deep minority when it comes to comics and genre entertainment. When it comes to movies, in general, you're in the minority. There's nothing wrong with that. You're in the majority in other things. Things you like. Things that most women like. You're in the majority in the nursing industry, in the teaching industry. You see anybody complaining? Oh, we need more men. We don't necessarily need more men, although I would say in the teaching, that would be the rare exception. We probably do need slightly more men in the teaching industry, or at least a more masculine touch to kind of balance things out over there, because things are so out of control. But I digress. So will this be good? No. It has everything going against it. It's a shadow of a shadow of a shadow of a shadow. First off, there's her worship of Captain Marvel. This isn't the real Captain Marvel. The real Captain Marvel came out in the 70s and was an actually amazing character who dies at the end because his superpowers give him cancer. And he sacrifices himself and he dies. That Captain Marvel was another refit. Same woman, Kamala, what's her name? Is it Kamala Khan? I'm thinking now that's the executive. Anyhow. So this is a shadow of a shadow. And Captain Marvel isn't popular. Captain Marvel is another comic they keep canceling and canceling and canceling. They don't cancel Spider-Man. No. The only reason they cancel Spider-Man is there's too many Spider-Man comics. If they end a Spider-Man run, it's a lot of times they just want to relaunch it a few months later, because starting over at number 1 gives you a boost in your sales. It has nothing to do with the popularity of the character over there. Spider-Man's insanely popular. Captain Marvel is lucky to crack 50K. And usually only does it in the first issue. And then after that, it's a straight up nosedive until they cancel it again. Same thing with Ms. Marvel. These are not popular characters. And these arrogant idiots trying to push this are going to find out that they're not popular. Now, does this trailer make me want to watch it? Absolutely not. This looks like a kid show, a bad kid show aimed at girls. It doesn't even look up to the level of a regular Marvel movie or TV show. Now, I looked at the trailer for Moon Knight. That looks pretty decent. But then again, I'm not the audience for this. I'm more of the audience for Moon Knight. And it's not because the character's male. It's because the show is more grown up. The show isn't talking down to me, and the show doesn't rely on, 2 characters deep. This is third generation Marvel. This isn't second, this is third. First generation would be the original Captain Marvel. Second generation would be the current Captain Marvel. And Ms. Marvel would be third generation. They're pinning their hopes on this character? Okay, good luck. You're not even going to get the Muslim community to really come out in droves for this, because even though you've got some of those trappings, that's what they are. They're just trappings. They're just, look, Muslims, we gave you a show. That's not what people want. They don't want to be pandered to. I don't need a show about Italians just so you could say, hey, look, Italians, we gave you a show. It has to be organic. This is the least organic creation ever to come out of Marvel Comics, with the possible exception of Ravage 2099. Brutal. Brutal. And that was a Stan Lee creation. Even Stan Lee has his missteps. This ain't gonna work. Will it continue? Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, they got too much riding on this show. They've already did a bunch of reshoots. They got a ton of money invested in this thing. I want to see it absolutely fail. So I'm totally biased when it comes to this review, obviously. I want to see it fail simply because they foisted it upon the fan base. The fan base doesn't want this. The fan base spoke. The fan base didn't buy the comics. So why are you pushing this? Because you're woke and wonderful, and this is basically $1 million virtue signal. So, and it doesn't even, on top of all that, it looks boring. It looks extremely boring. The music is boring. The dialogue's boring. 13-year-old in school having problems, not real problems, more like, oh, I don't fit in problems. Those are the lamest problems you could possibly put in a TV show. That's literally in every high school movie and TV show you've ever seen. Oh, I'm not that good looking. I can't get a date. Oh, yeah, that's like literally every character in every high school show ever. That's Spider-Man. That's absolutely Spider-Man. That was Clark Kent. Although I don't think they did his high school in the regular Superman comic. I think they did that in Superboy, though. So this is all old ground. This whole thing, oh, she's the future. No, she is not. So when this show tanks and nobody watches it, or very few people watch it, this will either be propped up by the powers that be, because it's woke and wonderful, to try to push it out there, or it may be propped up by Disney to try to get their money back, hopefully coming back in a second season. I mean, look at Batwoman. Okay, you have this is the Marvel's version of Batwoman, except she's not lesbian, but it screams the same things. In Batwoman, it was like, look, she's lesbian. Look, everyone, lesbian superhero, lesbian. This does the same thing, only it's Muslim. Look, everyone, Muslim superhero woman of color. Look. That's not a story. That's just not a story. And the fangirl stuff is a cheat. It's a total cheat. It's totally pandering to comic book fans. A very sliver of them, I'll remind you. Cosplayers and other people who, they were out of reading the comics already. Do you understand when cosplay happened? Those fans came into the fandom. They didn't read the comics to read the stories. They would flip through them to get good costume ideas. Or they read the old stuff like everybody else does. These comics aren't being driven by the story anymore, and you could tell by their sales. And it would be easy to fix, but it would require talent and editorialship that makes sense, that drives stories to a sensible narrative in reality. And the reality is, in real life, if a woman got superpowers, she would use them like a girl would. Now, that doesn't mean she'd be bad at it per se, but she'd just use it differently. Right? She would use those powers differently. Would she put on an elaborate costume and punch criminals? She might. But it's also very likely she might approach it in a completely different way. She might use it to help her boyfriend. Secretly. Because again, women tend to be all about relationships. So they would use it as women would. They wouldn't necessarily have the ambitions that men do. Spider-Man, when he first gets his superpowers, his first thought is to become an entertainer, to become famous. That's ambition talking, and then he regrets that, and that's part of his origin story, and then he completely goes away from that. Now, you could do a similar thing with a Ms. Marvel character. Like, the moment she gets her superpowers, her first thought are not altruistic. Her first thought is, oh, I'm going to go on Instagram and use my powers and become a internet celebrity. I could totally see that happening. What if you had the powers of Ms. Marvel, who in the comics can change her body? What if she would morph her body and look amazing, look like Kim Kardashian and hot influencer models, but she's only a high schooler, and she's on the internet looking like a drop-dead gorgeous woman who looks older, looks to be in her 20s, and she just starts raking in the cash. That's a story. Like, that's a way a woman might use her superpowers. It's not all about fighting crime. And look, there are plenty of guys. They got superpowers. Maybe, I write a comic called Super Frat. Super Frat, the characters are all frat boys. They do not use their powers to fight crime. Not really. They think it's stupid. They use their powers to get girls, drink beer, and do college stuff. That would be different. This is the same damn thing. Okay? It's the same damn story over and over and over again. That's why it's bad. It's just that, oh, no. Forget about all those male characters. Now we're going to force female characters on, and you're going to love them because you're comic fans. No, that doesn't work that way. Those comic fans came up with those characters. They were organic. They had cool, layered origins. This character doesn't have that. This character is a fangirl. A fangirl who stumbles upon superpowers, the end. Oh yeah, and she's Muslim. Which doesn't matter. If you really wanted to make a Muslim superhero, how about a character who finds a Quran that gives him superpowers? That would be something. How about a character who lives his life, gets superpowers and then tries to live his life based on the Quran? Oh, I bet you won't do that show. Because that show would probably be very controversial. You could face that character with many very interesting moral quandaries based on his morals, which would have to be based on the Quran. But you're not going to see that in this kind of movie, TV show, I don't think. What you're going to see is essentially a kids' show where the Muslim character is used as a skin suit. Look, everybody, we're so wonderful, we have a Muslim. It's disgusting. And if I was Muslim, I'd be particularly insulted by this. So, I really hope this show crashes and burns, because I really think we need, Marvel and Disney in general needs yet another signal. This is BS. That the fans are not going to tolerate this. I don't have Disney Plus. I would never watch this show. I would cancel. If I had Disney Plus, I would cancel it immediately over the show. But I wouldn't give Disney my money. That's just me. You don't have to follow what I do, but you could. You could. In this instance. If you do decide to get rid of your Disney Plus subscription over this, send them an email. Tell them you're canceling the subscription because Ms. Marvel is, dumb, stupid, whatever. Because I think it will be. I think it will be a pandering show that kids will be bored out of their minds, and it's way overhyped. They've been talking about this show for over a year, if not more. I think it's likely to go the way of the comic. The only thing that might save it is the fact that she's going to appear in a movie, and they're going to have to keep it around, at least until that movie comes out. So they might have to go a second season just based on the fact that the character's going to be in the next Captain Marvel movie, which I think is called The Marvels, which sounds like it's going to be a train wreck. It sounds like it's going to be a ripoff of the Captain Marvel movie, Captain Marvel 2, which is going to have more of the Marvel characters and Black Adam and all that. Anyhow, that's just my opinion. As always, I'm Tony D. This little monster is Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more based takes, especially Joan. She gets very based in the other videos. And we'll see you tomorrow.